Hi everyone, welcome to Tech World. Please subscribe, like this video and comment. Today we will talk about 7 tips for managing an IT outsourcing contract without dedicated and ongoing governance, carefully negotiated and documented rights in an outsourcing contract run the risk of not being enforced, and the relationship that develops may look nothing like what you envisioned. It organizations put great focus into drawing up their outsourcing contracts, but those agreements alone do not guarantee satisfactory outcomes. Attorney Brett Patterson has seen in time and time again. Time and money are spent on drafting the contract, often a substantial amount of money, and a tremendous amount of potential value is created in that contract, says Patterson, partner in Mayer Brown's Chicago office and leader of its technology transactions practice. But then the engagement is handed over to a well-intentioned supplier and management team that wasn't involved in the contract and often can't make heads or tails of what's in it. Its unforgettable contracts are complex and confusing, and relationships managers are selected based on their knowledge of technology or their skill in building relationships, not on their knowledge or of how to run a contract, Patron says. Those professionals managing the engagement often don't understand how their conduct or communication can impact their company's legal rights, which can cause a number of problems should dispute, disputed disputes arise. The result is that the benefits for which you negotiated hard and are playing great amount may be lost, says Patterson. What's more, disputes may be more difficult to resolve, and those that aren't becoming costly to litigate, requiring interviewing dozens of witnesses and sorting thousands sounds of emails to figure out what has happened and who is responsible. First, control your communication. If someone on the customer's side isn't already designed in the contact, send a notice to the service provider at the start of the engagement, identifying one employee authorized to speak on behalf of the customer. IT service providers are savvy. If they want to push a change in approach or documents through, they will find the employee most likely to think of on it. By designating one spokesperson, you avoid the inadvertent but unforgettable change that occur to your contact when lower level people are approached by the provider to approve a procedural manual, for example, that ends up changing the obligations of all the parties, says Chris. That makes it clear up front and in writing who responds and can bind the customer. It's just good for the relationships and will result in fewer misunderstandings. The second, require the provider to log requests and complaints. In many outsourcing situations, the only obligation of the customer is to pay the supplies. Not so in IT, where engagement requires the customer's contribution or collaboration. The customer will tend to have obligations, and if the customer doesn't perform those obligations, those may be an excuse for performance, patron says. The third, clarify cloudy times early. It's important to keep the written record of the engagement as clear, complete, and accurate as possible. When there are projects or situations that the contact does not explicitly address, the customer should clarify them early on and in writing. That is the best time to reach an agreement because the parties are most open to cooperation at that point, Chris says. If the details of a more granular project isn't specified in the main agreement, write down a summary of what each party's responsibilities are and have everyone sign off on that before embarking on their work. If this is clarity in the written record, the likelihood of the situation getting worked in the context of outsourcing relationship is much greater, says Chris. It matters so much. Fourth, send breach notice right ever. Patterson sees customers who endurate problems in their outsourcing relationships for years but had no record of them because they through sending notice to the provider would create tensions or contention. That is a mistake. Customer should send a written notice of breach or failure the very first time it occurs, and every time thereafter. This needs to be a standard best practice that a company always uses, Patrons says. They need to be combative, but rather polite and factual. If you can establish that pattern, particularly with a signed person comfortable sending these notices that are clear and useful, you will establish a much better record, Patron says. This is the end of first part. Thank you, goodbye.